When Skylight returns, a cast of more than 100. When 163 volunteer actors from an Indian reserve and a white town rehearse a play together, they learn much more than their lines.
Stubington is my home reservation. This is where my family is. I grew up next to the town of Enderby, and I remember non-native kids throwing rocks at me and calling me squaw. I've been away for over 20 years. Now 2 women, one native and one non-native, decide to make changes.
I've been here all my life, born and raised here. Only left once for a brief period.
I'm a puppet theater artist. I've been doing theater with puppetry and also with live actors for quite a long time in different contexts. I come from Montreal, but I live in Enderby, and I've been here for about 5 years.
Initially it was a little difficult because of the historical relationship between the 2 communities. Hasn't always been a good one. You know, I mean, there's been controversy between the 2 communities around political issues.
And this was a new initiative looking at how professional artists could collaborate with community groups on projects that might have artistic value and also some further value for the community.
Rosalind and Catherine bring the native and non-native communities together to write a play. That's Not the Way I Heard It tells a story from the Shuswap and the settler perspectives.
What's happened gradually over the process is the business community has come behind it. The town council has become very supportive, and the band council has been extraordinarily supportive.
Our world as we know it is going to change. Our life as we know it will change.
Once you realize that there are other ways of thinking, even if you don't necessarily understand what that way of thinking is, it helps to reflect back that maybe you're stuck in a certain mindset.
I have come to the conclusion,
Oh, yes,
that there are no natives here at all.
I mean, I wasn't interested in being involved unless, you know, we could tell the story from our perspective, you know, and those things that are controversial had to be talked about, you know. And I think that is very important to our people. It made a difference to them that it wasn't just, you know, arts and crafts story, arts and crafts type of show.
And extending about 2 miles above a point opposite Mr. Fortune's house.
You come to the edge of the water and begin.
The people in our community, after they understood what the objective was, you know, to try and do something for the benefit of our whole tribe, you know, they were agreeable to become involved then, you know, and boy, they've sure been troopers.
As we talked, I think we both became aware that I wouldn't be comfortable because I just didn't know what the basic set of assumptions that were part of that culture, that it would be a lot more appropriate if she actually wrote those parts of the script. I think in particular with a non-native person, getting to know a First Nations culture, we've heard a lot of assumptions about how the people are. And it's very difficult to get out of those channels. I think the way to get out of them is to just respect is something that only really exists when it's 100%.
Finally, I said to her, well, everything that I've seen is not a true representation of what happens, you know, and I really am not interested in becoming involved unless we can tell the story the way the story is, without it being changed, without anybody changing it.
It seemed really quite impossible at certain times, but at the same time, it just seemed that it was necessary.
Rosalind and Catherine's determination pays off. The play sells out every night for 2 weeks. It's a hit.
The flowers were transplanted and fenced in. The government appointed a special agent to monitor the flowers, to ensure they remained within the fenced area. Some of the plants the farmer put in had disease, which spread to the flowers. Most of the flowers died. Sometimes the agent would give them water. Sometimes he would forget, and they wilted severely. The agent was moved away from the plants about 25 years ago, and slowly, plants grew deeper and deeper roots and got the nourishment they needed to start growing stronger. They are starting to flourish. As they flourish, they are fertilizing everything around them, and everything is getting healthy again.
For me, this has been an opportunity to get to know a First Nations community, and I haven't had that opportunity even though I've grown up in Canada.
Catherine lives in Enderby for 5 years before she speaks to a Native person. And that happens only through persistence, and because she extends respect to Rosalind and the community. The play may not change my reservation and the town forever, but it has for these moments. The last night, everyone is beaming.
I think what it's done, it's built community pride between both the Squamish Reserve and the town of Enderby, where before there's kind of like an invisible wall between our communities.
I think that I think this should be brought all over Canada, you know what I mean? Like, I think this should be done in every province, you know, just in every town maybe, you know? I think this should be like tradition, you know, this should be a big thing. It's awesome.
There's nowhere else to go.
I think it's brought the two communities together, and each community is more aware of the other community, and whereas before we just, you know, we just lived, you know, just without really knowing anyone.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain.
I've learned that there shouldn't be no difference between white people and natives, and I meet new people.
For me, like living in Enderby and, you know, going into the town of Enderby, I've never been proud of being an Indian up until this point. You know, I think that being involved in this production has brought a lot of pride out in the people who are involved, like the First Nation people.
I feel that I've tapped into a whole other part of this community that exists that wasn't in my life before this. Weeks and weeks ago, I'd drive through Enderby and there would be someone on the street and I would wave out my car window, and that made the whole effort worth it, because it was someone from the Native community that I now knew.
This community play has bring our natives and all the other people together. Like, mostly the idea was to make everyone get to know each other.
I do 5 parts, and the part I like the most is the song, so I can make a coyote sound when they say Cookstown, and it's really cool.